the trenches, man. Like,
Yeah,
look at this.
yeah. That is ugly it gets when you have an office job.
Yeah, I'm all self-conscious. If I'm meeting later, I'm gonna make sure like I'm
Yeah, you gotta be
not
careful
turning
of that and paper cuts. All right, welcome to episode 83 of Farm to Markets. This is the show where participants only get 5 minutes to state their opinions, and the person with the most time at the end wins, but there are no prizes. Today we're talking about top hat plans, commercial real estate, physical cash, returns, and Hyundai cars. So, a little known savings plan is making the wealth gap even wider. According to the Institute for Policy Studies, the top 5 executives at the largest publicly traded companies in the S&P 500 index held a combined 8.9 billion in what is often referred to as a top hat plan. These CEOs, the CEO's stockpile, the CEO's financial stockpile are made possible because these savings plans allow executives to defer up to 100% of their compensation without paying any income tax on the money until they withdraw it out of the plan. People's minds are blown when they see that the wage gap between when they see the wage gap between CEOs and workers, but the gap between CEOs and workers' retirement benefits is so much wider, according to Sarah Anderson, author of the report who focuses on topics including CEO pay for the Institute of Policy Studies. Do you think these top hat plans seem unfair or discriminatory to the typical worker?
I'm going to go with yes, but not perhaps in the way that like left-wing populists would think. I think yes, in the sense that I think the entire tax code is pretty ridiculous and unfair across the board. If you look at like who actually pays taxes, I looked up the information as of 2022. The bottom 57% of households who file taxes end up paying net zero or net negative, which means they will get back more than they pay in. And again, that was as of 2022. The top 1%, quote unquote, are often able to afford tax attorneys that help them structure their, personal finances, their businesses, in ways that help them avoid paying taxes that, while they may be technically available to everybody, you probably aren't going to be able to do it unless you can hire the tax attorneys to do it for you, which most people can't. So in the end, the middle class really ends up paying for everything. As far as whether or not I think the executives are doing anything wrong, absolutely not. If the law exists, take advantage of it. But I don't think that the tax code in and of itself is quote unquote fair. What would be fair is an entirely different conversation that I'd waste all my time on. But I do think it's unfair that you would have specific carve outs for different classes or groups of people that other people can't access. So I would like to see the tax code overhauled entirely, but we'll see if that actually happens.
I'm gonna go with yes as well. And kind of echo Alex's sentiment on why it's unfair. It's unfair for different reasons, but I mean, just by the nature of these plans, they are discriminatory and they are unfair because they aren't subject to non-discrimination rules like other qualified plans like 401ks and 403bs are. I'm not going to spend my time spitting any vitriol on these plans. These plans get a lot of hate, primarily because they're used by rich people. And folks that don't have a lot of money like to trash talk people that do have a lot of money. That's just in our nature. But that's not the issue. We're looking through the wrong end of the telescope. The issue is placing caps on other qualified plans like 401ks and 403bs. So instead of hating on top hat plans that don't have these contribution caps, I think we should shift the focus and change the caps that are placed on qualified plans. In the defense of top hat plans, there's a lot of drawbacks, and most reporters don't include this in their reporting. For starters, a lot of these plans call for an immediate payout upon termination. So in the event you're fired or you quit, then the entire sum of your plan is taxable, which would be pretty hefty. By the way, it's very easy and very common to fire a CEO versus a regular employee. Another thing is this is non-qualified money. So you don't have the option of rolling this into an IRA or another qualified plan if you're fired or terminated. And lastly, unlike 401ks and 403bs, where contributions are held in trust by the participant, these top hat plans they're also called non-qualified deferred compensation plans. They're more of a handshake deal where the contributions in the plan are 100% owned by the company or the employer until it pays out. Now, because of this, these assets are not protected by bankruptcy. They're still subject to the employer's liabilities, creditors, stockholders, things like that. So for all the hate that these plans get, I don't think the solution is to change them at all. I think that if we want to give the average Joe the opportunity to play ball under the same rules, then we should allow that.
I think it'd be interesting if we saw a mass grassroots effort for workers to go to their boss and say, hey, instead of giving me my full salary, I want you to take some of the salary and I want you to keep it in the company. And if you guys go bankrupt, then I lose the money that I deferred. And then we'll see just how wonderful these plans really are. You see, we always hear about how horrible these plans are when people actually succeed at them, but we don't hear about how horrible they are when they actually blow up in people's faces. So the problem is that Congress, when they write the tax law, they can't think more than one chess move ahead. All they see is that we're going to put a cap on people being stupid. So we're going to set up 401ks in such a way that the dumbest worker in America can't mess this up so bad that they're destitute in retirement. But we'll let smart people be smart with their money and let them do whatever they want. And as a result, you get this kind of inequities. So quite frankly, the only reason they're discriminatory is because Congress thinks that the American worker is so stupid that they can't actually make relevant and correct financial decisions for themselves.
Interesting. When the Department of Labor, the IRS, and most, when I was taking classes learning about top hat plans, they actually go as far as to say that, you can discriminate in these plans. And that's, when you're new to finance, you have to go look up their definition of discrimination. And, basically, obviously it's employee classes. So you have highly compensated employees versus non-highly compensated employees. I guess in defense of the top hat plan, I want the person that makes the critical decisions for a company, I want them getting paid more and having access to more benefits than somebody whose job is pretty routine and most people can do it. Because a lot of times it's hard to find captains of ships, like really good like ship captains, when amongst the population. So what we're trying to do is incentivize the very best captain for this company to come work for us over all the other captains out there, so that our company is the best. It makes the best decisions. We get the best insight on stuff. We get the best deals. We negotiate the best. Like, everything is the best. So if you want to get the very best, you have to incentivize them with things. And the top hat plan is just another way to incentivize them. The top hat plan also makes you keep the money in the company. So if something bad happens to the company that you're directly responsible for, then you deserve to lose that money. So I like the fact that it's an unfunded plan, as they call it. Most 401ks, 403bs, 457b plans are funded. The 457f, also known as the top hat plan, is unfunded, like Drew said. And that means if the company goes through bankruptcy, you could lose those assets. And for a CEO, I want you to be able to lose your assets if the company goes bankrupt. I also like compensating CEOs with stock, because then that if the company is moving forward, your stock price is going to go up. And then, and if the CEO his entire pay is in like stock bonuses and stuff like that, obviously, their incentives are aligned with the companies. So I'm not completely, yes, they do discriminate by their very definition. They're discriminatory, but I want the person, who's in charge of the company having the opportunity to put more weight and having more benefits than somebody whose job is pretty easy to fill, and doesn't necessarily have all the responsibilities for that the CEO does.
That's a good point, Tom. I like that analogy. And to kind of springboard off that, it's kind of like if the ship goes down, there's only enough lifeboats for the crew the captain and the everyone in the in the on the captain's deck dies. So they have the most at stake, and I like the idea too of equaling the playing field. If the staff wants to share that risk as well, let them and see how bad they want it.
And I'd also point out that CEOs, like when you're the CEO of a company, that's your life. I mean, you're in the office or like doing work things pretty much 20 hours a day, like 7 days a week. A lot of employees, they show up, they put in their 8 hours, they go home, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're the CEO, I mean, you basically forfeit most of your life for a company, and there should be compensation for that. All right, moving on here. Let's see.
I think you may get the most time spent on one question award, Tom.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I would hate to win all of these shows. All right. Let's see here. Next question. Okay. So share prices from some of the largest office landlords have dropped to nearly historic lows, reflecting a sluggish return to office rate and a rise in the number of investors betting that these stocks will keep falling. Do you think commercial REITs or real estate investment trusts are basically funds that hold like office buildings and warehouses and stuff like that? Do you think they're in trouble because nobody's coming back to offices, or at least they're not coming back as fast as people thought they would?
Yeah, I think specifically office REITs may have a longer term issue ahead. Nobody just is a robot. So the people who manage these companies or these REITs, they will adapt to changing market environments. But several trends were already going on before COVID. So first, you had work from home. In the late 1990s, less than 1% of American workers worked from home part or full time. And right before COVID, that number had jumped to 7%. During COVID, it was over 50%, and now it's come back down, but it's still 27%. So it's increased fourfold from its pre-COVID number. I don't think that trend is going away. I think it made a lot of people realize that the technology is available to make work from home a very viable alternative for a lot of people. And it's a pretty easy and relatively free benefit that a company can give to employees. Second, since the rise of civil unrest and protests primarily related to Black Lives Matter about 10 years ago, since that started rising again, cities have been in a rough shape, and they're declining again after 20, 30 years of kind of a new golden age happening where people were moving in, money was coming back. Now people and their money are leaving. And more people are working from home. So again, I think office REITs may have problems going forward. What the next 12 months looks like, who knows? But longer term, I think work from home and the emptying of the cities of workers and money, those are both long-term trends that are here to stay. So I think office REITs are going to have to adapt to those two trends.
Yeah, I think Alex said it well. It's tough to say if a particular sector is in trouble, or if it will continue to fall, or if it will vanish completely. I think it's feeling squeezed right now. The commercial real estate industry and REITs are feeling squeezed, kind of like the banking industry with their long-term liabilities. When interest rates are going up, they're starting to feel squeezed, and we're starting to see a little bit of that in their prices. But I don't think they're going to completely vanish. I don't think it's going to be catastrophic. The winds of change are certainly blowing on the commercial real estate industry and REITs, but I think that we'll just see an adjustment. If prices continue to fall, then investors may buy back in. REITs typically they perform well during high inflationary periods. When inflation's high, rent is higher. So the REIT dividend payouts are better. So like Alex said, people going back to work in these office buildings in cities, there's crime. So we may see a shift there. And we may see the price of REITs start to decline, but I don't think it's going to be catastrophic.
I don't think this is a work at home issue. I think that our crumbling cities is the issue. That workers are telling their bosses, hey, look, I don't want to get on public transportation, go to the office downtown, dodge human waste on the sidewalk, try to get around, drug users and petty thefts. And I don't want to be shanked on the way of walking into the lobby of the company on the way to work. And quite frankly, in the article, almost all of the cities where these commercial real estates are really getting hit hard are places like San Francisco and Chicago and Los Angeles and New York. These are places where the local leadership has said, hey, we are not going to prosecute criminals. And as a result, the criminals are just doing whatever they want. Well, who wants to go to work in a city like that? So they're going, hey, I'll live in Whitefish, Montana and telecommute to work where it's reasonably safe to go to someplace downtown and get lunch. Real estate prices for office space in Flathead County has not dropped at all, as we all have seen when it comes to looking at possibilities in other places. It's only in these big cities where they've made policy decisions not to enforce the law.
I think it boils down to how much of a premium do you place on the water cooler conversation? Because that's JP Morgan's big thing, is that when they tried to force their investment bankers back into the office, they're like, we don't think there's as much productivity and there's not as much creative collaboration going on. So I don't know why that was so hard to say, but there's not as much creative collaboration. There's not as much of it going on in the JP Morgan office buildings, apparently, when people are working from home. But like, honestly, I think that's an easy thing to solve. I mean, you just set up like a water cooler Zoom conference where people just get to talk to each other. And, I think JP Morgan has more skin in the game in real estate than they do in anything else. But for like a lot of employers, it's like, I don't have to pay office space for my employees, and then they can just use, I can basically just shift the office cost to them. They can use like their home internet, their home desk, their home computer. And most of the time they'll buy computers for them. But it allows, especially like startup businesses, more flexibility because they have more money that they're not just spending on rent. So I think that all of a sudden, the pandemic forced everybody to see that there, not as much commercial office space is needed. And now suddenly there is oversupply. And I think that's going to be an issue.
I haven't seen a whole lot of laments about top-heavy plans for the CEOs of commercial property management companies or companies that pay their CEOs in stock options in that particular industry these days. In reference to our earlier question.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. So third question, running out of time here, is that so a coalition from London has warned that by giving up physical money in exchange for cards and phones, so like digital payment on your phone, people could be losing more than they bargained for. They say that cash is inherently democratic. Restaurants that do not accept physical money are excluding customers that only use cash. Some supporters even go as far to say that arch globalists at the World Economic Forum used the COVID pandemic to discourage people from using physical money and call lockdowns a dummy run for establishing a world government. How important do you think it is to keep physical cash around?
Well, without getting into the globalist conspiracy theories, I do think it's important to keep cash as an option. Right now at the federal level, there's not any actual legislation that says a business has to take cash. But Montana is one of 12 states that requires brick and mortar stores to take cash and coins. So I think it's important to keep it as an option. So some people don't want to deal with banks. I don't think you should be required to use a third-party payment system to buy or sell something. And sometimes private transactions are just not anybody else's business. So I think keeping cash as an option is important. Regardless of whether or not you think there's privacy concerns, I think it's just in general a good idea.
I'm all for keeping cash on the table. I like having options. I don't want to mandate anything or ban anything or require anything in terms of going all digital or all cash. I like having the options. But I think as a business owner, and all business owners out there, just be motivated to give the best service or offer the best product. And you can basically require any medium exchange that you want, and your patrons will keep coming back. Place I get a haircut only requires cash. They do not allow cards. I don't know, maybe they do a bit. I think they do a good job on my hair and I like it. So I do that. And I've gone to places that only require cards, like coffee shops, and I go there because I like their product. If you're not very good in the marketplace, and you require those kind of things, you'll probably fall by the wayside. So just be good at what you do.
Please comment below if you like Drew's haircut or not.
I prefer the option of using cash. It might be a deal breaker if my favorite establishments required me to use a credit card or a debit card. I like that option.
I just think as customer service goes, if I'm a business, I'm gonna offer cash payments, digital payments, card payments, phone payments, whatever. And I don't think the type of payment should be required or regulated. I mean, I think you should be able to pay whatever the medium the business prefers.
We have to be careful with this subject because we don't take cash.
I was about to say, yeah, we're violating our own thing here.
I mean, we take cash.
No, we don't.
We don't.
We
No.
cannot.
No, it's against the law.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do some editing now.
But I think we're okay at what we do. So I don't know.
I had a client years ago who came in and refused to do business with us because he took out $100 bill and said, "This is legal tender," and said that we are violating federal law by not taking cash. And I said, "Well, you have to override the other federal law, which says you can't make stock transactions with cash because they're afraid that we might be laundering money for drug dealers."
Yeah. All right, move on. We got 2 questions left and about 8 minutes left on the call here, so we'll get going. So returns, like from Amazon, like an Amazon return, returns are one of the biggest profit drains for online retailers like Amazon. Fixing that has become a priority as inflation continues to crimp shoppers' spending on everything from clothes to home decor. Shipping, warehouses, and labor add up to make returns costly. In addition, many items are out of season by the time they come back to retailers and must be resold at hefty markdowns, which can further eat into profits. On average, the cost to process $100 worth of returned merchandise is about $26.50, according to Navar, which is some like research company. Cutting the number of returns in half could increase profits by 25%, according to Navar again. Customers say free returns is the most important thing, but if it's not there, they will still continue to shop. Will the lack of free returns affect the way you shop?
It already kind of does. For some online retailers, I will not buy a really big item from them if it's going to cost me $90 to return it. So I don't think it's going to change much of anything about my already existing patterns. Free returns are great, though.
It won't change my personal patterns. I don't like returning things. For some reason, when I buy something, I feel like it's a business deal. We shook hands. If I return it, I'm backing out on the deal. So I personally don't like to return things, whether they offer a good return policy or not. It doesn't change my behavior at all.
I would prefer they just punish the people who abuse the system. Is that make them do it? Like, for example, if you return things more than twice in 1 year, hit them with hefty fees. But always leave the option available for those of us who rarely ever return anything. But keep that option available so that we keep doing business with you.
No. Next question. All right, so
6 seconds, Tom.
Yeah. All right, so Hyundai Motors was dreaming up an answer to the Tesla when the company's top executive sent its lead designer a photo of a bizarre-looking car known as the Scout Scrab. The Scrab was manufactured in Michigan in the 1930s and 1940s and looks like an outlandish cross between a bus and a pontoon. Do you like Hyundais in general, and do you like the way this car looks?
I have no real experience with Hyundais in general. I know they've improved in quality over the years, so good for them. Otherwise, the Ioniq 6 looks like a nice modern car. So, yep.
Cut off.
I'm out. I don't like the way it looks.
I have plenty of time, so I'm going to pontificate on the new model here. Let's see, is that it's not as ugly as the original Scarab, so it's actually a kind of an attractive looking car. I like Hyundai and the fact that they provide good looking vehicles that are economical at an affordable price that Americans can afford. So I salute them with 2 hands.
I would say, look at you with the correct pronunciation, fancy man over here. That's what I'll use my comments on. All right.
Speaking of which, is it the scarab or the scrab?
I thought it was scarab.
I
like the
thought so
beetle.
Scarab.
Is it scarab? Okay, it looks like scrab, but all right. So Joe's the clear winner for this episode. I don't think
Undisputed this week, is that correct?
that's right. Yeah, clear cut. You definitely won this week. So that's it for episode 83, and we'll see you again next week.